All right, guys, today's the day. Today, I reveal my secret that I've received so many messages and comments about. Finally gonna teach you how to lower your Axys windshield for that super sleek, aggressive look. All right, so first thing we need to do is remove the windshield itself as well as the trim piece that attaches it to the sled. So to give you an idea of about where we need to cut the windshield, I have an old one that I did from a couple years back from the Galaxy sled. Basically, we're going to be cutting it all the way along the very bottom line, cutting out the tab section where the long tab section of the stock windshield piece connects to the trim piece. And we're just going to be cutting that part of it off so that we can get a nice clean line all the way up to the rounded trim up at the top. Now, as far as the nose portion of the sled, I did do it a little bit different on my 850. I left a decent bit of the plastic on the nose portion of it and then used that to drill into to secure it to the hood. But since the windshield was cracked on this one, I had to revert back to the original style and cut it similar to the first windshield that I did. So there's plenty of different ways you can cut the windshield since it's plastic. One thing that I did find that helps work for me is putting it into a vise. I do have some aluminum little inserts that have magnets in the back as well as rubber feet that insert into the vise to not only help secure it so that it's not moving around, but also aren't going to damage the plastic. Now, obviously, you can cut it any way you so please, whether it be a Dremel, a saw, a pair of strong scissors, or even a chainsaw, but just remember it is plastic, so hey, whatever works. I've been using a set of really strong cutting scissors from I think Ace Hardware for quite a few years now. I've never sharpened them. They've cut damn near everything that I've thrown at them, and I've cut all 3 windshields with this set of scissors. So whatever you need to do to get a nice clean straight line, go ahead and use that. Now, I like to do it in sections just to make sure I get a nice clean line. Do whatever way you feel comfortable and the way that you think that you get the cleanest line. This is just the way that I like to do it. And since the nose piece was cracked on mine, I did take a little bit extra time to do it in even smaller sections just to make sure that the original crack wasn't going to spread and I wasn't going to create even more cracks, thus ruining the windshield. And before each cut, I would essentially line up my cutting scissors with about where I wanted to go, making sure that I was going to get a nice straight line. And also did that as I went along the cut, just to make sure that I wasn't going to have to do any major trimming afterwards. And then after it's done, checking to make sure everything is nice and straight, taking a fine file to the edges just to make sure there's no rough edges or anything. And then moving on to the next step. Next step, we're going to test fit it to see approximately where we want it to sit. This just depends on your preference of how aggressive you want it to look. So these small triangle sides of the windshield is where we're going to be drilling to install our push pins to secure the windshield to the hood. So you're going to line up that flat spot on the windshield with the small flat portion of the hood where it lines up with. And then you're going to hold it there and using a black marker, mark on the windshield where you want the push pin to go. I usually do it in the corner here just to make it look a little bit OEM and pretty clean. And then using a drill bit that is approximately the same size or just a tiny bit bigger than the push pin itself. An easy way to tell if you've got the right size is to use the holes in the hood just to make sure that it's not too big or too small. And you should definitely not use your sled to drill a hole in the windshield. And now using the push pin, just double check that the hole is the right size and then retest fit the windshield to the hood and make your mark on the hood using the hole in the windshield, making sure on both sides that you have it right where you want it. And then you should have a mark on this little diamond portion of the hood where you'll drill your hole. Now, obviously, before you do this, make sure that there's nothing behind that little portion of the hood. Just make sure there's no wiring or you're not going to hit the top of the headlights. Then you're going to drill your hole. Now, obviously, you don't need a lot of pressure here. You just need to basically just poke a hole in. So you don't need to put too much pressure behind it. And I like to use the drill bit after I've drilled the hole to kind of round out the edges a little bit. And then you'll retest fit it again, this time with the push pin in, and then simply repeat the process for the other side. As for securing the front, I simply just drilled 2 small holes on either side of the windshield. I used the little support piece on the nose of the hood at the front of the headlights to essentially wrap a zip tie around. It's a little tricky to get a zip tie through there, but just give it some time and you should be able to wiggle one through. And I typically use a smaller zip tie just so it isn't too noticeable. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. After that, you're all set. You can obviously do this with or without a wrap. The process is basically the same. But if you do it like I did before you put the wrap on, here's a quick little tip to get a nice clean cut in the hole for the wrap. You'll essentially use your finger to find the hole and press in a little bit so that you can see the edges of the hole. And then using a razor knife, make a small X cut and then just cut out the excess. All right, and just like that, you're all set. And now your one-of-a-kind Axys milkshake is gonna bring all the boys to the yard. If you like this video or it helped you out in any way, let me know in the comments below. Leave a like. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload my next video. We'll see you next time. Thanks. and don't mind the broken zip tie. I gotta get that replaced. Damn zip ties aren't reliable anymore. Good old Harbor Freight.